I accepted Christ when I was about 7 years old, and life was pretty easy since then. Some minor obstacles in middle and lower school, but nothing that I couldn't handle with wise advice from family and friends. But freshman year, everything started going my way. I had a really good GPA, an amazing friend group. I was getting lead roles in theater, and I started to walk away from God because I felt like I could do everything on my own. I would just go to church to check off a box, not necessarily to learn more about God. On March 23rd, 2017, I was rehearsing for my spring musical at my school. It was my freshman year of high school, and I was wearing the wrong shoes, and so I slipped and fell, and I hit my head on a metal plate that was on our stage, and I got a concussion. I was in a lot of physical pain, first of all, a lot of fuzzy-headedness. I was dizzy a lot of the time. I couldn't walk straight sometimes. I had a lot of migraines, but I would try to push through the pain because I was so set on getting, all A's, because I was still finding my identity in academics. But my head was pounding every single day. I just felt like someone was striking it with a hammer. And I would go to the nurse all the time and try to get medicine and try to lie down, but nothing would fix it. I was in a lot of emotional pain. No one really understood what I was going through because a concussion is an invisible injury. So when it started to last longer, people began to think I was faking it. I didn't understand why I was going through all this pain. I'd been the good girl. I had always followed the rules. I had always done what God wanted me to do. So I felt like I didn't deserve the pain. But ultimately God wanted more than just simple obedience. He wanted true trust, and I wasn't willing to give that to him. As the concussion went on, I began to suffer with mental pain because my brain was damaged, and I was taking a lot of high-class medications that had really strong mental health side effects, and I was taken out of everything I loved and was alone, but ultimately, and most importantly, my spiritual life was not good at all, and that is the foundation of having a good mental health. So I began to suffer with anxiety and depression. I would have panic attacks all the time at school. I began to suffer from suicidal thoughts because I just wanted all the pain to end, and I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't tell anyone. The Christian girl in me knew I wasn't supposed to be having those thoughts, so I just tried to shove them down and put on this mask of perfection. Because I couldn't tell anybody in words, I began to use my hands secretly. I began to scratch my wrist. I never cut myself because also the Christian girl inside of me told me that was wrong, but I had to find some way to rebel and get the anxiety out. So I just decided to start scratching my wrist one day when I got really anxious. But one of my teachers noticed that I was doing it and noticed that I had been acting differently. And so she pulled me aside one day and asked me, "Samantha, do you want to hurt yourself?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." I began struggling mentally about 6 months after the initial accident. So it was my sophomore year by this point. And I would still do my devotionals and go to church, but I was completely checked out and angry with God. I was angry that he was putting me through all this pain. When I would do my devotionals every night, I would basically just write in my journal that it was unfair that he was putting me through all this pain. And I began to doubt his goodness. It wasn't until about 11 months after the initial concussion when we started to talk about the Easter story, because it was almost that time. And I've grown up in church, so I've heard the Easter story countless times about Jesus's crucifixion and resurrection, but it really resonated with me this time that Jesus did understand the physical, mental, and emotional pain that I was going through, but 10 times more. And he definitely did not deserve the pain that he was going through because he took on my sins. And my mind was just open, and I began to feel ashamed that I ever doubted him and that I ever walked away from him. And so I renewed my relationship with Christ around that Easter Sunday. After I accepted him back into my heart, I was just filled with this immense joy and peace and hope. I understood that there has to be a purpose in all this pain, and I might not get to see that purpose until years later, or maybe I would even have to wait until eternity to see that purpose. but because I had Jesus back into my heart, I knew that my suffering wouldn't go to waste and that he was going to use my pain and turn it into my testimony.